episode 2 of Roads and Riches. I am pumped today because we've got James Avello on today, owner and founder of Butler Title Company that services all of Florida. They're parked right here in our backyard, predominantly servicing the South Florida market. James is a fantastic owner operator of this business, and I am super excited to have him on today. I love talking business with James, close personal friend of mine. And if you're in the market for any title needs, you're about to transact, have a new home that you're purchasing, new real estate investment property that you got on deck, check out Butler Title. They are always my go-to that I work with personally. But without further ado, here's episode 2. Here's the pod. So I'm pumped because actually the first bit of big good news is we've just locked in a name for the pod. So we'll go ahead and say it here, get your first reaction. But the podcast is going to be called Roads and Riches.
I like it.
Yeah, we spent some time tossing some stuff around, and that's what we landed on. So just locked those things up. So we'll be going live with a few things and getting this thing in production. And I'm pumped that you are the second guest. So without further ado, we'll get into it. So real quick, obviously we know each other just through the community, through our wives' families and all that. And I know you and I can probably talk business for days. I know how much you love it. I'm super passionate about it. And you're an attorney by background. So maybe tell us a little bit real quick, just your background, what you do, and what you started.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, Pablo. Excited to be on here. Excited for the podcast launch. This is awesome. Yeah, like you said, I'm an attorney by background. So James Avello, by the way, real estate attorney. Been an attorney since 2012. Went to the University of Miami. I took a bunch of real estate related courses. Always knew I wanted to get into the real estate field in some capacity. I kind of grew up in a real estate family down here, and contracting, brokerage, development, and always knew when I became an adult and launched my own career, I wanted to get into this arena in some capacity. So went to law school at did that, obviously 3 years there, finished up, and had a few jobs before landing where I am now, which is founder of Butler Title Company. But yeah, like with anybody, you graduate school and you're early mid 20s, whatever it may be, and you're trying to figure out what you want to do with your life and your career. And like a lot of people, your first job or two isn't where you end up or where you land, but good experience, kind of learning from different companies. I had some litigation jobs and an in-house job, and ultimately was working at a company back in 2018. Always wanted to work for myself. Always had that entrepreneurial bug, like I know you certainly do. And just decided I was getting married in the summer of 18, and certainly with a new beginning that came with that, and married life, I was like, new beginnings all around. So got married, went on my honeymoon, and when I came back from my honeymoon, summer of 18, I launched Butler Title Company, based out of Fort Lauderdale. And we've hit the ground running ever since. Like a lot of businesses, you start with, no deals, no revenue, no, not sure how you're going to pay the rent and make payroll and all that. But, with anything, you just pick up the phone and you start hustling and, getting out there and shaking hands and just trying to hit the pavement and bring in some deals.
Yeah. So one of the things that I love, and I think it's like, I'll call it very on trend right now, and we'll see how long this whole thing lasts. I think probably for a long time, but something that we talked about, recently was that you're in the title business. This is not sexy. It like you are in what everybody would say is an old, boring, archaic business, similar to me, old, boring, archaic business. And, these things have caught, and I think caught a lot of traction, especially recently. I think that there's a lot of, first of all, I know on social media, there's a huge small business community, huge SMB community. There's a lot of talk about how, similar to how you and I share, that same entrepreneurial spirit of we want to do something ourselves, building and creating and doing things like that. There's something to that, and something that you get out of it that's just so rewarding, and it's so much fun, no matter the amount of stress and everything that comes along with it. But it's ultimately we have fun doing it. And so the trend that is really happening is that a lot of people are talking about. Heard the term coined silver tsunami, where you're getting a lot of these Ivy League kids, MBA grads. They don't want to go work at McKinsey. They don't want to go to Goldman. They don't want to go to work on Wall Street. They are starting to search fund. They're going to find an old, boring business, plumbers, electricians, what have you, that are great businesses. And the things that they're finding value in is the fact that they can bring new things to those businesses, like new technology, throwing maybe social media on there, Google My Business, new domains, new marketing tactics, whatever it is, and they see the opportunities there to continue to grow that business, maybe roll up a certain industry. And in your case, what was it that you saw in the title business, right? You said, okay, I'm going to go start something. This is what I'm going to go start. And I know you got a couple partners in the business and stuff too, so we'll talk about partnership a little bit later and stuff. But what was it about the title business that you were like, this is a niche that I can get into, and I know what we can do well and execute. What was the thought process behind that?
Yeah, so I mean, you're right. Title insurance, probably a pretty boring industry. Probably not the most glamorous and sexy industry, right up there with the accounting, probably. But yeah, like with anything,
Yep.
Warren Buffett said it. Boring businesses are the best businesses. It's an industry that the real estate industry, especially in South Florida, it's not going anywhere. And if you're getting loans, you have to have title insurance. If you're buying cash, technically you don't need it, but you certainly have to, it's certainly recommended. And it's one of those things where you still need an escrow agent on it and on every deal. So to kind of get to your point about why do we choose this. So I do have some partners. One of my partners, a real estate developer, came to me and was like, hey, do you want to open this up? You're an attorney. You can run the day to day. I've got some deal flow I can send your way. Certainly not, anything at the extent we are now. But I said, you know what? Yeah, I'm an attorney by trade. Real estate is obviously an industry that I'm interested in. I grew up in. This is kind of a natural segue for me to, other than, you could go the brokerage route, you could go the lending route. You could work for a big shop, you could work for a small shop, you could go be an agent. There's a lot of ways to get into real estate. But title is something that, regardless of the type of transaction you're participating in, we're kind of the central hub of a deal where it's not, it's like you said, not the sexiest by any means, and maybe not the most glamorous, but it's the I call it like the Grand Central Station when I'm explaining it to a lot of people. We're the behind the scenes conductor that coordinates all the moving parts, and we hold money, we disperse money, and that's not going anywhere. So in terms of an industry that we were thinking, what can we do to kind of hit the ground running, get in here, and build a business around it. Title was kind of a natural fit. The barrier to entry, not very high, especially being an attorney. I'm already licensed, so you don't need a ton of capital to start it. I already had the licensure down. We already had somebody kind of teed up through our relationships who could assist as our first employee. So that was helpful. And something, you mentioned, some of these younger generation looking into more certain, different types of businesses that they're thinking that they can revamp or add value to with adding technology. We did that in some regard when we launched the business. We named it Butler Title. And I probably get an email once a week that says, hello, Mr. Butler, thinking that it's my name. And it's not. The reason we came up with that name is because of something called the Butler Rebate, which in Florida, the Butler Rebate allows any title company or law firm that issues title to give a credit based on the amount of the title insurance that the buyer or the seller pays for. So without getting too into the weeds with the legalese and the technicalities, when you buy a title insurance policy through a real estate closing, the rate that you're paying for that policy is established by the state of Florida. It's a regulated insurance product. And the rate that you pay is solely determined by the purchase price or your loan amount. So what we do is we offer what's called the Butler Rebate. And on every deal, we give a credit to our clients of 10% of that insurance policy amount to help them reduce their cash to close. So it's a way for us to be a market disruptor, to be a differentiator. if you get a quote from, 5 or 6 other title companies, which many people do, our quote comes back with lower closing costs because we're giving that rebate that none of our competitors are doing. So it was a good way for us to act as a disruptor in a super competitive, very crowded space. Probably similar to, accounting. There's a tons and tons of title companies. I feel like there's one popping up on every corner. And we were like, we're a new entrant into the marketplace. We don't have a reputation yet, other than just, our family and friends who know us from around town. But we're the new guy on the block back in 2018. And, how are you going to stand out in such a crowded market? So we figured, everybody's going to claim the best service, the best responsiveness. We would love to work with you. We're gonna, be the best. But how do you really quantify that? And but when we're such a highly regulated industry, we can't give kickbacks. Obviously, we can't pay people for their business. That's strictly forbidden, and we don't do that. So we figured, okay, well, we can do this. This is a permissible way to add value to our clients, help them save a buck, and that word spreads like wildfire because everybody likes to feel like they got a deal on something. And it was a nice way for us to kind of carve out a very unique niche, and it's been very, very successful for us. And of course, we leverage technology as
Yeah.
well. A lot of older businesses, of course, don't like to leverage technology. We have industry leading software, all cloud based, phone systems and software. And but at the end of the day, with anything, it doesn't matter what business you're in. You got to do a good job. You got to pick up the phone. You got to call people back and be responsive and go the extra mile. Which I'm very fortunate to have a very good team with a lot of experience, and we all, I like to lead by example with that, and they see me, first one in, last one out, doing that, and I think we've been able to build a good team. So, all the extra tools and the bells and whistles and the tech is all great and it helps streamline things, but you still got to roll up your sleeves and do the work. So, and I think that's
Yeah.
been our secret sauce in a way where it's, we've got the rebate, we've got the tech, but we just care. We do a good job and we care. And, you can't really replicate that. If you don't care, you're never going to, rise to the top.
Okay. So a couple things that you went into there. So we said you're in this archaic business and old unsexy, and you've found a wrinkle and a nuance in the business that you're able to use for a great marketing strategy in your space. You're able to use to bring something to new to market, to find demand, something that's a differentiator. And then there's the technology piece. So three, I think, critical components. Now, there's one other thing that I from the outside looking in, as as Alpine Mar is your accounting firm, and as much exposure and things that I'm able to see into your business. One of the things that I find amazing, and it's something that I think is probably all credit to you, is from an operations standpoint. One of the things that you hit on was Warren Buffett loved old boring businesses, but he loved simple businesses. That's what it was. It was simple. And I think people in general, we can oftentimes do a very good job at overcomplicating things. And I think one thing that you do so well, that I've seen from the outside looking in, is setting up these processes and procedures, and to the point where it's everybody knows their role. And if somebody were to leave tomorrow, you can plug somebody right into there and get them up and running on whatever that process procedure is. And you can rinse and repeat, and you keep it simple. And, you know, from an accounting standpoint, too, just outside looking in, there is a lot of organization and things that you can see just in the day to day, let's say, finances and the bookkeeping and all that you can see in the business, and how well it's run just from that. Which we look at. We work with a lot of different clients, and you kind of see a whole spectrum of different things. But one of the things that it stands out about Butler Title, particularly, and this is also coming to you as somebody who's been a user of your service, have closed multiple transactions on both personal homes and investment properties and everything with you, and it stands out that it's a simple, repeatable process every time. Your people are always there. Everybody knows what they're doing. They're always on the ball. And so, curious to know, what is it about, being an operator and something that maybe makes you tick, that you look for, that you seek out, where you're kind of the one that's trying to put those things in order.
Yeah, well, thank you, by the way. I appreciate that. You certainly have a more under the hood, ability to see under the hood than anybody else would, doing our books and such. But yeah, I mean, like you touched on, processes, I think are really the driver of it, because with anything, you get busier, you grow, you get more files, you get more clients, there's more moving parts. You got to get insurance policies, you got to get workers comp, you got to get general liability, you got to get cyber insurance, you got to get all these things, you got to service the business, you've got to do your books. And as you grow and all these things start adding up onto a business owner's plate, you got to set up systems to be repeatable. And of course, you have to have the right people in the right roles in order to accomplish those things. But it wasn't built overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day. We started with me and one employee in a couple hundred square feet little shared office space. But as we grew, and you start getting busy, and you realize, oh, I don't have a policy for that. I don't have a system for that, whatever it may be. You realize you need to build that policy and procedure. We have what we call like the Butler Bible, which is our little playbook, internal playbook, policies and procedures that we've crafted and tweaked, and it's a living work in progress that's always getting edited as we grow and as we add things to our internal process. But yeah, it's something that the software of course helps. We have very good software with automations built in, and a 37-point checklist for every file. So it's a repeatable process. When you buy a house or you refinance a property and that contract comes in the door, it's treated the same way every single time. It goes to our new files folder. It's a shared inbox. Multiple people manage that inbox. We have a file setup team. Gets assigned to a closer. A closer sends, an intro email. We have templated email, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. We're sending, a clickable link for an online fillable form where our buyers and sellers can fill out all the required info on a web-based form, that they don't have to print anything or scan anything. It auto comes back to us upon completion. So I think just setting up a bunch of these processes is the only way you can scale. I mean, as we start, we're doing give or take 50 transactions a month on average at our company, and with 6 full-time employees plus me and a couple partners. So but you're never going to be able to do 50 plus transactions a month on any sort of consistent basis with any sort of you know uh, quality of life. If you don't want to work 12-hour 15-hour days, you're never going to be able to do that if you don't have very defined systems where everybody comes in every day at 9 and they know their role, they know what they need to do. We don't have a bunch of confusion in the office where people don't know who's assigned what tasks. So everybody's got their defined roles, and they stay in their lane. And yeah, I mean, like you said, if somebody were to leave, I hope that's not the case. I have virtually no turnover because I think we treat our people well, and people like coming into work. And, I'm here pretty much every day leading by example.
Yeah.
But yeah, if somebody left, we'd hire a replacement for that person. And, they would read that Butler
Yeah.
playbook and they would step right in. And of course, with anything, there's a learning curve, but, that person would have their defined role and their specific tasks. And again, with any business, that's the only way to scale. It has to be defined and repeatable tasks.
Yeah.
And you're never going to be able to run any sort of size organization at scale if you don't have defined parameters with rules and tasks. So I kind of have built that with the assistance of my team as we've grown, and I always seek my team's feedback on anything, because while I have my thoughts of how it should be at a high level, and how the infrastructure should be set up and what I want it to look like from the user end, and from a client's end, what I want them to experience in terms of communication and responsiveness. I kind of preach that, but then it's all about rolling up the sleeves and digging into the actual systems, and how do we accomplish that? How do we tweak the automations and make sure that everything's done in a repeatable way? So kudos to my team. It isn't just me, but we collectively and
Yeah.
collaborate on that stuff to make sure it's repeatable systems. I think are really non-negotiable.
I think one of the other nice things about it too, which I'm sure you could probably speak to also, is that a lot of times in the small business space, you'll see a lot of times maybe when somebody's going to acquire a new business or something, right? One of the things that goes into the overall valuation is the involvement of the owner in the business or key people in the business. And I think in the small business space, particularly, there is there are times when you'll look at it where it's the owner is always working in that business, always, like, just, and they can't go on vacation, they can't turn their phone off, they they get so consumed by it because the things that you've done, which is putting in those processes, procedures, and making sure you have the right people to handle certain things, it frees you up to allow you to, be able to, hey, I need to take some downtime. And I know that the house isn't going to be on fire when I leave for, a few days or take a long weekend or whatever it is, go with the family, go on vacation, whatever. So I think that's like a huge benefit, to it. And then the other thing is, from a scale perspective, with you're the captain of the ship, and it allows you, I gotta imagine, to free up your capacity to focus on new things that matter, big things that matter, to continue push the entire crew forward, the entire grow the business, just everything, which you've done a tremendous job doing. I mean, the Butler, what it's turned into, in, like you said, you started it in 18. So all things considered, it's still a really young business, but an incredibly healthy, profitable business, which is, you know, awesome. And it's so much fun to watch and so much fun to see, from the outside looking in. But speaking to some of the things that, you do, and one of the things that I admire about you, and you being able to free up your time and everything, is you are a master networker, right? And I think in any business, it goes, it goes without saying, you got to be good with people. You got to, show that you can have that demand, but that you can have those good personal interactions with people and provide that good service. And so, I think some of it is certainly personality driven, but how much of it is, and how often do you find yourself putting yourself out of your comfort zone, and finding something and somewhere to put yourself out of your comfort zone, for, the network that, in my opinion, you are literally always building.
Yeah. Yeah, I think networking is number one. I mean, I've always been somebody who enjoys being out and about. I'm certainly a people person. I'm an extrovert. And anybody who knows me well would 100% say that. That's old news, right? That's not something that I've, built just to be a business owner. That's something that kind of is inherently just part of my personality, which I think is one of the main traits that's helped me build a successful business, because I don't mind going out, shaking hands, going to the meet and greets, or the networking events, or the business after hours, or the chamber of commerce lunches, or whatever it may be. I think there's so many different things you can get into, in a local networking scene. There's a million different events every week, so you got to do those. And the more you do, the better. And the more people you talk to, and the more hands you shake, the more successful you'll be. And you know, I it's just something that comes naturally to me. I genuinely enjoy it. I genuinely enjoy, the vast majority of people I work with, my referral partners, realtors, lenders, buyers, sellers. I mean, of course, with any business, there's going to be, that annoying client, or that annoying person who's, calling you 15 times a day. But in general, I genuinely enjoy helping people. I genuinely enjoy walking people through the process and educating them on, the intricacies of real estate, and how to add value to help them build a portfolio, or how to structure something. And I think when you genuinely do care, and you're talking to a bunch of people, and how to help them and better themselves and better their situation, and connect their dots for them to help them improve their situation, it's all about paying it forward. I'm on calls all day every day where I'm not directly benefiting from it. It's somebody who needs a referral for something that I'm not going to make a dime off of, and that's fine. I'm going to send them your way. If they need accounting services, I'm going to send them to, plumbers that I know, or whatever the case may be. And I think if you have a big enough network with people who you genuinely trust and like and respect, and that they share that, that that care and that work ethic, and they're going to treat your clients just like you would treat them. And people realize that and they respect that, and then
Yeah.
you build that kind of reciprocal referral network, and something I've done over the 5-6 years we've been in business. And I think it's super important. I think you can
Yeah.
have a good business if you don't network, but I don't know, especially in the professional services space, which is obviously where we operate. It's so hyper competitive. If you're not out there and building rapport and building relationships, there's so many people who are out there that are doing that you're if you're not staying in front of your people and trying to genuinely build relationships. I don't feel like they're not transactional to me. They're genuine relationships at this point, where I send people calls and notes and texts and thanks for your business, and jump on a call. Hey, haven't heard from you in forever. Just wanted to catch up, and nothing about any specific deal or transaction. Just genuinely just keeping in touch with people and caring about how they're doing and wanting to maintain that relationship. And I think when you do that genuinely, you're just gonna be successful, because people can sense when you're being genuine about it, or when you're just trying to give them a call to hound them for business. Calling somebody just to get their next deal, most people see right through that. And I've never been that type of person. I've never been the guy who's like, I want to beg for your business. I just want to call, check in, genuinely, try to maintain and build and maintain a friendship with you. And I think the business flows from that. It might not come the next day, the next
Yeah.
week, but it's going to come. And frankly, at this point, I'm a living testament to that. We started with no deals, and here we are 5-6 years later with 50 plus deals a month. So I think it's really just about being genuine. You got to get out and about, you got to hustle, you got to go. And you don't maybe want to go to that 5-6 o'clock happy hour after a long day of being on the phone all day, or having a couple of fires you had to
Yeah.
put out, but sucking it up and getting out of the house and going for that beer, or going for that hour at the happy hour to shake some hands and to pass out your card and to build some new connections. One or two people that you meet once or twice a week, that adds up over time, and it's really how you build that network effect. And I personally, to me,
Yeah.
that's the real organic way of growing. And I think that's you can grow through acquisition, merger, all of that. But at the end of the day, even if you do that, you still got to be, keeping yourself in front of your people.
The compounding effect of a lot of that is just even to me is crazy when you look back at it and you see the effort and the things that you've done very consistently, whether it's every day, every week, every month. The compounding effects of those things and those habits is just amazing. I know we see it in our business, obviously, as you do, which is fantastic. And the other thing too is the referral network. I mean, it's like you said, in the services industry, you know, having the confidence of who you're sending somebody to is in that person, it's a reflection of you.
Sure.
And so you have to make sure that wherever you're sending somebody, whether you've worked with them or not, they align on core values, they have some sort of trust, whatever it is, where that they're not going to be somebody, or they're going to provide a service that is that direct reflection on you, that's not going to be good.
Right.
I think that's a huge takeaway. So another thing that I want to talk to you about, which we touched on a little bit earlier, is partnerships. So I think one of the things in business is you have partners, and in your case, you have some silent partners that I know it makes all the sense in the world to be involved in your business, because they have some alignment in the industry and everything too. But being in business for as long as you guys have been in business, being successful in this business and continuing to grow it, what's the secret sauce for you guys to making these healthy, long lasting partnerships work, especially in your case where you have a few mixed in. It's not just you and one other person, and you're the main operator, you're the face of the company and everything. What's the secret sauce to making these partnerships work?
It's a great question. I'm blessed. I have very great partners. They're friends. They're good friends. We genuinely have a mutual respect for one another, a trust for one another. Like you said, I have silent partners. They don't get involved in the day to day. They trust me with running the day to day operations, with the decision making. And I think secret sauce. I don't want to make it seem like I'm some partnership guru. I mean, at the end of the day, it really comes down to just aligning yourself with people who have similar values and similar goals, and you're aligned with how you want to treat your people, and how you want to grow your business, and what type of, things you want to emphasize when it comes to, allocating capital, where you want to spend your dollars and cents. And there's that side of things, but it really just comes down to just, being aligned with good people. And if everyone's, in the partnership, it doesn't matter what the industry is a good person, and you communicate openly, and you're, on the same page, that really can mitigate the vast majority of problems. I mean, my partners and I were friends before this business, and we've obviously 6 years down the road, we're still, still friends, and we're probably closer friends now, obviously at this point. But it's not easy. We have disagreements. There might be things that come up that, I want to do one thing, they want to do another thing, but you talk about it, and you put together a game plan, and you march forward. And as long as I think you're collectively aligned with, the goal, try something out, try a marketing initiative or whatever it may be, give something a shot. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if you all go into the decision with the same idea of, let's give this a shot. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, we tried it, check that off the list and move on, try something different. So, I don't know. I mean, it comes down to just, I think, aligning yourself with people with similar values and morals, who who respect that everyone's got their particular role to fill. And I don't think I would have ever gone into business with people who I didn't just genuinely have a friendship with and a respect for how they operate and how they conduct themselves. And because I think a lot of partnerships, there's so much litigation that goes into partnership disputes and whatnot, for whatever reason. You start making money, and a difference of how much money you want to spend on the business versus, just take profits off the top and not reinvest into the company, and whatever it may be. Like, a lot of those things come up with many businesses. So I'm very blessed to not really have to run into a lot of those types of issues, namely because I think we're just aligned with, we're very similar personalities, and we're friends. And I think when it all circles back to that, it's like, listen, like, we're all here, we all want each other to succeed. If the business succeeds, we all succeed. And we got to put the interests of the business first. Nobody's, my partners don't have an ego. They don't care about being the face of the company. They let me run with everything. They don't micromanage me. They let me do my thing. They trust that, comes back to the trust issue. They know it's in good hands with me, and they know I'm a good ambassador of the brand and of the company. And I don't take that for granted. And like I said earlier, I try to lead by example, and I'm not just, the managing partner who's out playing golf all day, every day, not answering my phone. It's like, I take my role as managing partner seriously, and I want that to be, representative of how I, represent the company. So I think they realize that, they respect that, and because of that, they give me the deference to do what I need to do to manage the day to day. And it's been a very nice, mutually beneficial arrangement.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So, I guess coming to, closing out, a couple other things. So, one, obviously, you've got a tremendous business on your hands that I think will continue to grow, continue to succeed, undoubtedly. So, I think, first and foremost, what is in the future for Butler Title first, and what do you see on the horizon for Butler Title in the next, 2, 3, 5, 10 years?
Ooh, loaded question. 10 years. Uh, I'm worried about 10 minutes from now, much less 10 years. But I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, there's always we flirted with the idea of some acquisitions. That's potentially always in the cards. You never know. I mean, we don't have any definitive plans for that, but I think there's always, naturally every day we march forward, and, organic growth is always, first and foremost, just trying to grow as we've done every year, year over year. And, potentially a couple new hires, some business development, and marketing associates to help expand our reach. In-person networking is such a key component of this business. So, we can spend more on digital marketing. Social media, of course, is huge. Everybody knows that. That's nothing new. So, can always spend more on social. But I think expanding our footprint with boots on the ground is a big next step to kind of get us to the next tier. Call it 100 closings a month would be kind of our next tier, if you want to look at it in that regard. So to get to that level, what do we got to do? And I think boots on the ground with some sales reps, marketing reps, whatever you want to call that, would be kind of a good approach to that. But yeah, we don't have some concrete plan of how this is going to look in 5 years. I'd be lying if I said I had a clear idea of what that looked like that far down the road. It's we're 5 years in at this point, and I would have never thought we would be this far along 5 years in. Looking back, so 5 years from now it could be a completely different company and a completely different scenario. But we're in a good spot now. We're excited about the future. I think the market's in a good shape. We're in hopefully a market where the interest rates are going to come down throughout the remainder of this year, which would be beneficial for us. Home buyers get a little more purchasing power. Refinances might circle back around. So
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll take it one day at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? One thing that we haven't talked about yet, and I do want to bring this up, and I don't know if you've had a chance to look into it or not, but there's all the news that came out. I don't know, what was it, about a month, 2 months ago, from the National Association of Realtors. There's this big ruling of where I think they lost this lawsuit against a whole bunch of plaintiffs, a whole bunch of homeowners that had brought it to them, and it stands to, I think, from what I understand, potentially change the landscape of that industry. We'll see where it goes. We'll see how it plays out. I think there's certainly probably still an appeal in process and all that, but from agents that you've talked to, obviously they're a big component of the industry in your business. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? What do you think maybe comes of this?
Yes, it's super interesting. I mean, I'm definitely not an expert on the lawsuit, and what I've read a little bit about it. I actually saw Wall Street Journal headline yesterday. Keller Williams actually settled for 70 million to bow out of the lawsuit. I think NAR, National Association of Realtors, is still remaining as a defendant with one or two other big national brokerages, so they're still in the mix. But yeah, Remax settled, Keller Williams settled yesterday. One other brokerage, I believe, settled. So it's interesting. I mean, they're claiming it's an anti-competitive, price fixing is the gist of the lawsuit, that, the industry's conspired. All the big brokerages have conspired to artificially set commissions at the rate that they are. I don't, personally know if I agree with any of that, but be that as it may, it is what it is. The lawsuit's there. I talked to a bunch of agents about it and picked their brain. And, what do you think? You're boots on the ground. You're an agent. This is your industry. What do you think about it? I think that the kind of collective thought is that there's, of course, a bunch of people who are worried, and it's inevitable to be worried when there's such a massive, pending lawsuit that could shake up the industry. But I think the really successful agents I've spoken to, who I respect, and I know they do a good book of business, I service their book of business. None of them are really worried. And I think the common thought amongst all that tier of agent, the really good, successful agent who knows their value, is, listen, people are always going to buy and sell real estate. Yes, technology, Zillow, all these online tools have made it easier for home buyers to, maybe cut out an agent in some capacity. If you're a buyer, yeah, maybe you can go on Zillow, find the house you want, find a listing agent's info, call them directly, and maybe try to cut out the need for a buyer's agent. But I think there's still such a large chunk of people who would never want to undertake the biggest financial transaction of their life without the guidance of a licensed professional. And I don't think that there's going to be that big of a shakeup to where, maybe the fee structure changes, and maybe, agents make a little bit less per transaction, perhaps. But I don't foresee, the role of a realtor, especially good ones, being eliminated. I mean, especially on the listing side. I mean, people are going to buy or sell on the listing side the biggest asset that they own, and to do that without somebody who knows how to properly price it, to handle the showings when the homeowners are at work. There's just so many moving parts in a real estate transaction, that to do that without the guidance of somebody who's been there, done that, it just seems unlikely to me. And I think the good agents who I work with know their value. They know that they're helping bring value to the table for the homeowners, for their clients. To say, I know many successful people, super smart people who are not in the real estate industry, doctors or CPAs or attorneys who are not real estate practitioners, who super smart people, but they wouldn't know the first thing about the moving parts of a real estate transaction. And you don't go sell a $500,000 $1 million house willy nilly without any guidance. That would not be a prudent business decision. So I think people understand that role for that realtor is going to remain in place, and the good agents know their value. They know that they're you know helping price homes properly, getting their clients more money than arguably they would if they try to do this without the assistance of an experienced realtor. So it'll be interesting to follow. There'll, I'm sure, be appeals, and the appeals will certainly take years to shake out. But I think at the end of the day, cream rises to the top. Anyone who's good at their role and, who adds value in any industry, if you add value to your clients, the clients know that, they realize that, and they're going to want to keep you at their side. They're not going to just say, oh, there's some technology that I can leverage to cut you out of the deal. It's, I don't think that's really going to change the landscape too much for people who are good at what they do.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think that totally makes sense. Anybody that's at the top of their game in that industry, and I think that the barrier to entry for becoming a real estate agent, I think, is a lot different than obviously, let's say, maybe becoming an attorney, or even in the medical practice, or some other things. And so it'd be interesting to see if this may even force, like you said, cream rises to the top. This will force some of those the better agents that they're at the top of their game. They know this business inside and out to really rise above and crowd out maybe a little bit of what is that brokerage and these the real estate representative industry. So I agree with you there. I think that's spot on. So any last words before we wrap up here?
No, man, I'm excited for you. Thanks for having me on. I think this is awesome. I'm happy to be the second guest, and I look forward to being a viewer, a listener of the podcast. And this was awesome. Always love talking shop, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we got some awesome guests lined up and everything, and I am pumped. This will be one of the biggest business podcasts. Mark my words. That's where we're going.
Good. I hope so.
Thanks for coming on, James.
Thanks, Pablo.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Roads and Riches podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting. Let us know how we're doing. And if you're an individual or a business that's in need of accounting services, maybe you're in the market for a new CPA, whether it be tax, accounting, fractional CFO services for your business, or transaction advisory services if you're contemplating a transaction, you should consider using Alpine Mar, the CPA firm that's redefining the accounting industry. You can head on over to alpinemar.com or roadsandriches.com to learn more about us and find a contact form to get in touch. Find out if we can be a good fit for you. We'll see you next time on the Roads and Riches pod.